The night was colder than usual, the kind that makes you zip your jacket all the way up and walk a little faster. He was exhausted, carrying the weight of another long day on his shoulders. And when he checked his wallet, he found exactly $1 left, just enough to get a small coffee to stay awake on the walk home. But before he could step inside the cafe, he noticed a stranger sitting on the curb, shivering, hands trembling, eyes empty in a way he had never seen. The stranger didn't ask for anything, didn't even look up, but something about him pulled at the deepest part of the heart. Without thinking, without calculating the logic or the consequences, he placed his last dollar in the stranger's hand and simply said, "It's not much, but I hope it helps." He expected the moment to end there, just a small act of kindness lost in the noise of a busy world, but as he walked away something shifted, an unfamiliar feeling, a strange warmth, a quiet realization that he had given away the only thing he had left. He didn't know that this tiny act, done out of instinct and compassion, would set off a chain of events that would change everything he believed about fate, generosity, and the invisible threads that connect strangers. Didn't he know that the man he had helped wasn't just someone down on his luck, but a person carrying a story, a past, and a purpose that would collide with his own life in a way he could never have imagined? And as he continued down the dark sidewalk, unaware of how closely the stranger's steps would follow behind him, unaware of the opportunity, the danger, and the miracle waiting just ahead, his life was about to shift into a chapter he wasn't prepared for but desperately needed. Michael stood outside the small convenience store, staring at the crumpled $1 bill in his hand. It wasn't just money. It was the last piece of hope he had left before his world officially collapsed. His rent was overdue, his final job application had gone unanswered, and the weight of surviving another day pressed on his chest like a concrete block. Hunger twisted inside him, but somehow using the dollar for food felt pointless. It was like patching a sinking ship with tape. He stepped toward the store entrance, ready to buy the cheapest snack he could find. Just then, a soft voice called out, "Sir, excuse me." He turned and saw an older man sitting on the sidewalk, leaning against a trash bin. His clothes were worn, his hands trembling as he tried to warm them with his breath. "Could you spare $1?" the man asked, barely making eye contact, as if ashamed to even speak. Michael froze. He wanted to walk away. He needed to walk away. That dollar was all he had. But in the silence that followed, he noticed something. The man's eyes, they held the same kind of exhaustion, the same quiet defeat that had been drowning Michael for months. For a brief moment, it was as if Michael was staring at his future self, cold, alone, invisible. Without fully understanding why, he pressed the dollar into the man's hand. "That's all I have," he whispered. The man looked up with surprise, then relief. Thank you," he said with a shaky smile. Michael stepped back, still confused at his own decision. He felt strangely lighter, though he didn't know why. He turned away, ready to walk home, ready to face another night of emptiness. But then, "Wait," the old man called out. Michael turned. The man struggled to stand, but when he finally stood, his posture seemed different, more steady, more grounded. He slipped something into Michael's hand, a small folded paper. "What is this?" Michael asked. "A chance," the man replied cryptically before walking away with a strange calmness. Almost as if he were no longer the same helpless stranger, Michael unfolded the paper. It was an address. A street he had never heard of, with a note beneath, "Go tomorrow." "Trust me," Michael stared at it for a long time. Something felt off. Something felt impossible. But deep down, a spark flickered, a spark he hadn't felt in a long time, hope. And so, with nothing left to lose, he decided to follow the address. The next morning, Michael made his way across town. The air was crisp, and the city buzzed around him as if unaware of the strange mission he was on. The address led him far away from his neighborhood, towards a part of the city he had never visited, quiet, old, and strangely well kept despite its age. He finally reached the building, a small two-story house, with a blue door and a freshly painted fence. It didn't look abandoned, yet there was something unusual about it. Something almost familiar, though he couldn't place why. He hesitated before knocking. A woman in her mid-40s opened the door. She had warm eyes, a soft smile, and an expression that suggested she had been expecting him. "You're Michael, right?" she asked. Michael froze. "Yes, how do you know my name?" She stepped aside. "Come in. I'll explain." Inside, the house was cozy, filled with old photographs and the smell of coffee. She guided him to a seat and handed him a cup. "My father said you'd come," she said. "Your father?" Michael's mind raced. "Do you mean the old man outside the convenience store?" She nodded slowly. "Yes." That was him. Michael nearly dropped the coffee cup. But he looked homeless. He looked sick. She gave a bittersweet smile. "My father dresses that way on purpose. He does it every year. Looking for someone who gives without expecting anything back." Michael stared at her, confused. "Why?" She folded her hands. "Because that's how he built this place. By trusting the kindness of strangers." Michael wasn't sure whether she was joking or insane. But then she pulls out a file, thin, worn, and marked with his name. "This," she said softly, "is for you." Michael opened the file. His heart stopped. Inside was a job offer. A legitimate, well-paying job at her family's company. A job Michael had applied for months earlier but never received a reply for. "We saw your application," she continued. "Your qualifications were excellent. But my father, he insisted on meeting you in person, without you knowing who he was. He needed to see your heart before he saw your resume." Michael felt dizzy. "So, giving him that $1, that's why I'm here." She shook her head gently. "No. You're here because even at your lowest, you still chose compassion. That's what we look for, people who rise above circumstance, even for a moment." Michael didn't realize he was crying until he felt tears on his hands. "It's more than a job," she added. "It's a fresh start, a real one." For the first time in a long time, Michael believed her. Michael's first day at the company felt like stepping into another world. The building was beautiful, the staff friendly, and the atmosphere alive with energy. He felt out of place at first. After months of unemployment and struggle, his confidence was rusted, barely functioning, but the old man's daughter, Claire, guided him personally. She walked him through his new department, introduced him to his team, and spoke about him with a sincerity he hadn't heard in years. Over time, Michael found himself adjusting, slowly rebuilding parts of himself he thought had died: ambition, self-respect, purpose. His co-workers liked him immediately, not because he was perfect, but because he worked hard, listened carefully, and never acted superior. One afternoon, Claire invited him to lunch. "You know," she said between bites, "my father asked about you again." Michael smiled. "I still can't believe any of this is real." Claire laughed softly. "It's real because you earned it." Then her expression softened. "There's something else he wanted me to give you." She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. It read, "Thank you for remembering that kindness matters. When people are at their lowest, their character becomes the clearest. You reminded me why I started helping strangers in the first place." This life is borrowed time. Use it well. Michael pressed the letter to his chest. He didn't know the old man well. He didn't know his past. But he knew, without question, that man had changed his life forever. And now it was his turn to do something meaningful with the second chance he'd been given. Weeks turned into months, and Michael flourished in his new job. He saved money, moved into a better apartment, and started rebuilding the life he once feared he had lost for good. But one day, Claire called him urgently. "It's my father," she said, voice trembling. "He's in the hospital." Michael rushed there immediately. When he walked into the room, he found the old man lying peacefully, hooked to machines, but smiling gently when he saw Michael. "You came," the old man whispered. "Of course I did," Michael replied, his voice cracking. The old man motioned weakly for Michael to sit. "You don't know how much that dollar meant," he whispered. Michael shook his head. "It was nothing. Just $1. The old man smiled faintly. "No. It told me the world still has good men. It told me my work wasn't wasted." Michael leaned closer. "Why me? Why choose me?" The old man closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with effort. "Because you reminded me of myself. Long ago, I was the man begging for $1. And someone helped me. Someone who believed in people like you, like us." Michael felt his chest tighten. "I wanted to repay the world," the old man continued. "But I can't do this forever. So now it's your turn." "My turn," Michael whispered. "To carry the kindness forward," he said. "To lift someone the way you lifted me without knowing it." Tears streamed down Michael's face. The old man smiled one last time. And then he closed his eyes. The monitor flattened into a single, endless tone. Michael sat frozen, the weight of the moment sinking into him like an anchor. The man who gave him a new life with a final gift, a belief that one small act from one struggling soul that changed another life forever. Michael stood, wiped his tears, and whispered, and from that day forward, he became the person the old man believed he could be. He listened. He gave when he had little, and gave more when he finally had enough. His life changed. One moment. $1. After everything he had been through, the hunger, the fear, the moment of doubt when he questioned whether giving away his last dollar was a mistake, he finally understood something he had never realized before. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness doesn't just change the life of the person you help. It circles back and transforms your own in ways you never expect. As he stood there, watching the stranger walk away with gratitude in his eyes and a new sense of hope in his step, he felt something shift inside him. It wasn't pride. It wasn't relief. It was something deeper. The quiet understanding that he didn't need money in his pocket to feel rich. He only needed compassion in his heart. Because what happened afterward felt almost unreal. Opportunities he thought he had lost forever suddenly returned to him. Doors he assumed were locked quietly opened. People who had never noticed him before began to show support, kindness, and trust. And somehow, in the middle of all those small miracles, he realized that life is always watching. Life sees what we do when no one else is looking. Life sees the choices we make when we have nothing left to give, and rewards the courage it takes to give anyway. Maybe that's why his journey touched so many people. Because deep down, we all want to believe that kindness still means something. That compassion still matters. That doing the right thing, even when it feels impossible, still echoes in the world. And his story is proof that it does. It reminds us that you don't have to be wealthy to change someone's life. You don't have to be perfect to make a difference. If it made you think, if it made you believe, even for a moment, that kindness still has power, then don't let it end here. There are so many people out there who need this message. So many people who need hope, who need light, who need to be reminded that good still exists in the world. If you want more stories like this, stories that inspire you, challenge you, and stay with you long after the video ends, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're notified the moment a new emotional, meaningful, and life-changing story is posted. Your one click helps more than you think. It pushes these stories to more hearts, more homes, and more people who need them. Thank you for watching, thank you for your time, and thank you for believing in stories that matter.